The new Aeldari are finally here. In more ways than one, I suppose.
Spiky bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Rob Bear from SpikyBits.com. And this video, we are gonna unbox and build all the new Eldar Aspect releases that came out in February of 2025. And some of these haven't seen a redesign in 20 or 30 years, if I recall right. So let's, we got a lot of kits to do. Let's jump right into it. So there are 4 new Exarch models this go around. All of these are $45 in US. And they all are on 40mm bases for, I think, the first time in the history of ever. I don't remember them being on that big of a basis back in the day. And I imagine they're going to be quite big models once we get them put together. And then we've got 3 new boxes of Aspect Warriors. We got the War Spiders, which sorely needed a redesign. We've got the Fire Dragons as well. And the Swooping Hawks, which I'm guessing, just looking at them, and I guess we'll find out once we get them all built, but I feel like they're going to be about the same size-ish as they were before. Maybe not Primarist, but I think they're going to be, I think they're able to sculpt these a little bit tighter with computers now, as opposed to doing everything by hand. Now, all 3 of these boxes are $62.50, which is like the new standard squad rate after the May 2024 price increases. So let's start with the Swooping Hawks here. Now, if I had to guess, and we're about to find out, but I would say all 3 of these boxes are going to be that kind of 3 sprue configuration. Oh, this is 4. This is 2 full sprues. So, well, I guess we'll find out how that goes. But that was just my guess, not looking at anything here. And are these 2? Nope, these aren't the exact same sprues. So interestingly enough, they had to make, well, I guess it's technically 1 large tank kit, but snapped in 2. So there's the sprues. We've got a big ass decal sheet here, which looks really cool, and the Swooping Hawks instructions. Now, I'm not going to go through each and every one of these just because we're going to run out of time, but I did just want to mention a couple of things if there was something crazy, and I don't think there was anything crazy in this one to be aware of. They all go together, or seem like they'll go together pretty well. Now, remember on this, that the bases are the 27mm, and the what is it, the little shrine token, which I really like the idea of tokens, is on a 25 round. So here's the first sprue here, and you can see it's really well done. Another thing to mention about these Aspect boxes is they come with 5 helmeted options, 5 unhelmeted options, and then like 3 or 4 for the Exarch, I forget. But either way, you've got a lot of options for these guys. And just judging by what I remember from the old models, these are about, I'm just looking at it and I'm eyeballing it, and I feel like these are about the same size. They're just a little bit tighter and able to be sculpted a little bit better. So they kind of kept the same scale of Eldar, which would definitely scale up well with the other stuff out there. They were just able to tighten it up because these wings are generally, I'm going to say, and I don't have any because I haven't had these models in like 20 some years, but just going by memory, I feel like they're very close in size. So if you have the old metal ones, they might fit in if all you're going to buy is a couple of the new plastic kits, if I had to guess. Next up, we've got the Fire Dragons, and this one I'm not so sure about. It feels lighter. So yeah, so this is a 3 sprue configuration right here with the same size bases, the same detail sheet, and instruction manual. Now, oh yeah, this one had some interesting stuff in it. So Games Workshop is notorious for messing up instructions and part numbers and things. And this one gets a little wacky and it's out of order. So pay attention here when you're putting the Exarch together, because for some reason it juxtaposes the Exarch in with this second model, this number 4 model, and his things here, it's like they accidentally forget that they're doing this guy, and somehow he ends up being the same, and it's not the same pose, it's not even the same model, but everything else seems to go together. I did want to mention, oh no, I think that's on Fuegan. Yeah, that's on Fuegan, so we won't talk about that anymore. And then the sprues themselves, like I said, you get a big number of heads in here. I really like how the standard is embossed on the banner, which is really cool to see, because having to freehand that would be a pain. And then you've got, of course, the fusion guns and the Exarch one with the fire axe, if you want to take that. And one of these should be a flamer. Is that only Fuegan? I forget. I can't tell. Well, if I forgot about it, it doesn't matter, I suppose. Either way, that's the new fire dragons. War spiders are next here, and the box feels heavier, so I'm gonna assume that it is a 2 sprues. There they are. And are they identical? Nope, they're not identical, which also tends to make sense. But they gave me an extra base in here, so we got 2 for the icon. It comes with the transfer sheet, same one. Instructions wise, I don't think there was any gotchas, though. I did want to mention real quick, when you're putting these together, make sure that you use a little bit of that plastic glue that I love to talk about so much, and you'll see why when we get to Asurmen. So this, you're going to want to make sure that you get a good seal back here, because there's going to be like kind of like some cracks, I think, and we'll check it out when it's assembled. But you know, the back kind of overhangs this whole like spider back cowl armor thing. But I like to really use a lot of this Tamiya, the super thin cement, and it's great. It works fine for all this stuff. But then that way, hopefully there isn't like a noticeable line down the back. Then we got Fuegan, and he's my personal favorite out of the whole bunch here, because he really has had a glow up. Now, all of these ones are 1 sprue kit, and we'll talk about that here in a second. And I forgot to mention already, these are the first ones so far that I have seen the Warhammer symbol on. They're all dated 2024, except for Asuremen, which was strangely dated 2023 and doesn't have the Warhammer symbol. So I think they might have been sitting on that one for a little while. Instruction-wise, I don't think there's anything you have to worry about on this guy. I'm not even going to show you the instructions. We'll just go straight into the sprue here. But that little nub on the back of his fire pike, I believe it's called, or what is this? Seer. Oh gosh, I forgot what is his weapon's name? I got the codex open right here. Seer Song. I was close. Whatever, Seer something, but it's a fire pike. The little nub on the back of that goes into the backpack right there. So there's a little socket, sorta. I don't see it being an issue if you use a little bit of that plastic glue, but it could get kind of springy and pop out. So keep an eye on that, and it looks like that little flame element goes in the front there, just on the base itself. So that's really cool to see so far. And then next, we'll take a look at Baharroth. And all of these look to be very dynamic, a little bit more so compared to their Exarch, I don't know, cousins. Do you want to call them children or something like that? So again, 1 sprue, it's got the Warhammer symbol on it. And the only thing I wanted to talk about with this one, where is it? Okay, so, oh yeah, right here. Now, this may or may not be anything, but it looks like these halves go together, and it'd be very precarious. But the way I'm looking at it is there's a nub, and then these are going to socket down on top of it, and that looks to be, yes, that looks to be the case right there. So I think overall this will be okay, but just be aware that that could be a bit of a pain point, because you're already balancing this on a wraith piece of wraith bone or wraith stone, and then you're kind of like building it all up, and then have to plug those in, and it could get a little precarious, but maybe not. I don't know. Their new designs seem to be very well done, and I think, you know, I've definitely been a fan of it so far, because they like to hide seam lines and cracks and all sorts of things. Next up is Asurmen, or Sermon, but I suppose it's supposed to be Asurmen because men is pronounced definitely different than man, but who knows. This one's also on a 40 mil base. This is the only one of any of these sprues dated 2023, and it doesn't have the Warhammer symbol. So we know he's a oldie, bit of an oldie, but still a goodie. Now this is going to be something. Well, there's going to be several gotchas on this. I can already tell by looking at the sprues. But let's jump into the manual first. All right. So they slivered, or they sliced the cape, which you can see right here. So you're definitely going to want to use a little bit of plastic glue to get in there and get a good, nice seam, like kind of fill the seam. Also, you have to put his football shoulder pads on top first before you lock in the head. Otherwise, you won't be able to lock in the head or get the shoulder pads on. If I had to guess, there's been several times where that's come back to burn me. So I've been trying to be a little bit more cognizant of it here in the near term with all the new GW designs. But overall, the sprue looks great because look at that really cool banner that is embossed on both sides. And then you've got the Wraith Stone. Very similar to Drazar and Janzar. Oh, well, this is more similar to Drazar, actually, than either of them. And then it's got the slice right here. Actually, it's going to be right there. So that's going to be a little precarious. And then somehow you're supposed to lock his shuriken ammo or core stuff to get sliced at the molecular level onto his body somewhere. But I forgot to look at that part, but I'm hoping that they figured that one out. But definitely use a little bit of this glue on it because otherwise I think it might be very noticeable, like, hey, what's that crack down his cape right there? And then we've got Lhykhis, the brand new one that nobody knew existed, although we all assumed there was a Warp Spider X-Arch, but maybe we just thought they got lost in the warp. Well, it turns out they is a she. Here we are, yay! So this model looks to be pretty interesting. Lots of parts on here. And the only gotchas I really saw on any of this was maybe this little energy warp jump thing. Because you basically have to build her up with this little nub right here at the bottom of her foot. And then you build the base up, which looks to support its weight pretty well. Even these left and right halves seem to go together relatively seamless, just looking at the instructions. But then it gets kind of weird because you've got that little nub contact point, and something like this was very similar with the Satan Shard of the Nightbringer, that somehow all of the little energy connected together and held it all together. I don't know how. It could be Tom Cruise witchcraft. We just don't know. But it all worked. So I ate my words on that one, and so I'm not gonna overextend here. But what I do like is the fact that it looks like these little rock nub teleport energy things actually are halvesies. So these little contact points form together. So it's not like resting precariously on top. It's actually locks together, which I like to see, because if that's the only 3 contact points, I mean, it could probably work because the majority of your weight's going to be down here and that's just going to stabilize it. But just be aware that it might get a little tricky on that one. Now, I know nobody wants to watch me actually put stuff together, but I started getting going and I realized that some folks had asked, you know, hey, why don't you show that? Well, I don't think anybody actually wants to see it, but I think sometimes people might be curious about what I use in my process. So I wanted to go over that real quick. So I have 2 pairs of clippers that I use on the regular when I'm not doing terrain. I use some junky ones for those. I have the old Citadel, very nice sprue clippers, and they've taken some damage over the years. I probably had these about 10 years now. And they've held up the test of time. They got a full tang piece of steel right here. They're very supportive, very, very easy to use. Now, the Citadel Hobby clippers are not worth buying. It's not worth spending $30 on these. I cannot recommend these with a straight face. But if you win some store credit at your local games, I bought these to review. You could probably find the video on here from like 2014 or something at this point. If you win some store credit at a tournament, hey, pick them up. They're definitely worth it then. In, you know, credit money, but in real people money, probably not. Probably not, I don't think. Now, the other clippers I use, these are called like God Hands or God Nippers or something like that. I got them off Amazon. They don't look very impressive, to be honest with you. But once you get going, and what I like to do is I like to clip close to the part. I don't clip it flush. Although they say you can't clip with these flush. It's very easy. It cuts like butter, and it just, here, let me see if I can get really close. And what it'll do, what they're designed to do, is leave you a surface that you don't have to trim up afterwards. And I feel like, let's show you. Up here is where I messed up and didn't do it right, but right here it's pretty flush. So that I think that's a win in that regard. Now, these are not cheap. I think this pair is about the same as this pair, but they've got some that, like some God Hands nippers, God Hands clippers, they can range up to $60 for some of the Gundam ones. This one I think is good middle of the road and definitely worth the money. I I would spend $30 cash money dollars on this rather than this, but that's just my preference. Then I've got to brush off, you know, the little flakes of plastic and things. This actually is it's a Citadel toothbrush. This was with the Green Stuff repair kit that they put out many, many years ago. Then I've got a seam scraper, which also, at $15, I think it's probably worth it. Again, it's got the full tang of steel here, which is really great stuff for if you're getting in there and you really want to do some scraping. But that being said, you can just use the flat edge of any hobby knife to do about the same thing. Now, it's not as strong. It isn't full tang steel, but this Monument Hobbies X-Acto knife, or whatever he calls it, I guess hobby knife, is probably the best out there that you can just pick up from anybody here in the States that specializes in hobby. It locks in. It's very easy to, and of course I'm going to cut myself now after I say it's very easy to, but generally, and why am I not have strength today? But this piece pops off generally when I'm not being a dummy about it. I don't remember how to do it. I have to read the instructions now, which is something none of us ever want to do. But this pops off, and then there's a little notch where you actually notch in the replacement blades, which I have right here, just to show you. There's a little notch in them right there. So that's how all that goes together. And then to kind of round out my whole ensemble here, which I keep in just a nondescript pencil cup, just to load up and take with me around the house or somewhere else. I got some Vallejo plastic putty. This stuff's really, really good for filling gaps. Gets super, well, it doesn't recede, which is good. So if you use green stuff, you know, it'll shrink. This stuff will not shrink. It'll keep its shape. It has marble in it, so it's going to harden pretty quick. And then also it's very easy to trim down. I got a couple of pin vices here, just manual ones for drilling out bolters real quick. A couple of pins. And then also I've got the Wow Stick. Wow. So the Wow Stick's pretty neat. It's kind of, it doesn't get up over 1/8 of an inch in diameter of the drill here. But this thing, it's got a gear ratio. It's great to get in there and drill out bolters real quick, drill out smaller holes, smaller pilot holes on the fly. It charges. I can't even tell you the last time I charged this thing, but it uses standard USB-C. It's like $50 on Amazon. It's kind of one of those things that if you've got nothing else to buy, hey, put it on a gift list and pick it up. But this thing's pretty. It comes in very handy in a clutch when you're just like doing the 20th like pin or drilling out a bolter barrel or some hobby project you're working on. You're just like, ugh, it's taking forever. My hand is cramping. You know, it's everything's fun and games till you showboat and your hand starts cramping. And then, of course, I got the Tamiya extra thin cement that I use pretty much on the regular. I mean, I have some regular glue as well, but I don't use that quite as much. And usually I know when I'm going to be using that, so I just grab a bottle. But actually, no. You know what I do use? It's the Bob Smith Industries super thick purple stuff, because this works really good on resin. They have a little thing back here. And what I also like, and this may have happened to you guys as well, you go into a store and you buy a bottle of glue and you get home and it's dried out because the store has had it on the shelf for so long. The same thing has happened with the greens, the kicker stuff here too, right? That it will yellow. That's why there's this protection thing on here, because this will yellow if it sits for too long. So some stores, this stuff's just sitting, and if I like this because it's sealed, so I always look for these to pick these up at any local store, because I know I keep it sealed and I keep this sealed, and I know it's going to last a little bit longer if I don't get to using it. You know, we all have our backlog, right? And nowadays everything's plastic, so a lot of times I'm just using this stuff. But every now and then I'll have to use that, and more often than not, I find that brand new bottle is completely hardened. Now, let's look at some minis. So here's the Warp Spiders, and like I said, I think they're about the same size as they used to be. I mean, these 5 look very similar to what they used to be. I mean, here's a Primaris. Let's see if we can keep it in focus. So here's a Primaris, but here's the thing. The old aspects used to look and be just about as tall as a normal Firstborn Space Marine. So it doesn't surprise me that they are this big compared to a Primaris sized model, to be quite honest with you. So that's really neat to see. I mean, overall, I think, let's get these out of the way. So overall, I kind of don't think they're as dynamic as they could be, given that GW has so many options available to them. Like putting in these little blips or bamfs of warp jump stuff is cool, don't get me wrong, but I would much rather have seen them like jumping all nimbly bimbly from like warp jump to warp jump instead of just like, hey, just put this weird shit in there and whatever. It kind of just feels like, I mean, yes, they look better than the old guys that were just kind of doing the thriller, you know, like, hey, I'm holding this web spinner, but I dig it. Like, I mean, I feel like they could have just done a little better. That's all. The models themselves look great, but if we didn't have anything to go off of, I would just be, I don't know. I would be like, oh, cool. But then since we're just like, what you can do, I mean, I don't know. I feel like, okay, here's what I'm trying to say. Let me use my words. Okay, so here's Lhykhis. Lhykhis is dope. Lhykhis is jumping, doing things, bamf, like bam. And then you got a dude just like, hey man, hey, what's up? Oh, not much. Just standing here. Oh, well, that sucks. Bamf. Oh, yep, I'm just still standing here. You know what I'm saying? Like it's dope. And like, I mean, look at the composition of this model. I mean, look at the composition of this model compared to a Primaris Space Marine. Like, is that a 50 mil? No, that's a 40 mil. Okay, I was like, am I on crack? Just incredible. I mean, the composition of this is just wild. I mean, this model, if it was standing up, would be Primaris size plus, I think. But all the stuff going on here, just amazing. Like, simply amazing. I don't know. I just kind of wish they would have done a little bit better with the Warp Spiders, personally. Okay, then next up, we got the Fire Dragons, which are very cool looking as well. Yes, they are very static in pose, but that's kind of how they are. I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to do as far as like, hey, I'm a Fire Dragon. Well, I'm just sitting here with a gun. And that's kind of what they do. I don't know. I mean, I think the composition's good. The armor's good. The motion's good. Those tassels and he's kind of bending. Could they have made some ones running? Yeah, probably. Is it a deal breaker? No. They're about what they should be for a Fire Dragon, I suppose. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little over the top here with my kind of review of them, but I don't know. That's just kind of how I feel. And then when you see Fuegan, Fuegan's looking fresh, of course. It's got, I thought there was a little, oh yeah, the little fire thing. So there's a little fire thing right there. We got that, and then all sorts of assumed motion. Yeah, you can't build these any other way. That does lock in just fine up there. And this is a monster of a model as well, like compared to a Primaris. Like this dude is a giant. He's like almost Primarch size, like just shorter than a Primarch. Because remember, Primarchs are around 50 mils generally, the newer ones. Well, the Horus Heresy ones at least. So, well, no, I guess the Horus Heresy ones are on 40s. The newer ones are generally on 50s, I think. I'd have to double check. I might be putting my foot in my mouth there, but you kind of get what I'm saying. They're pretty big. And I think out of all of them, they did the best job with the Swooping Hawks, right? Because they are jumping. They've got little, they don't have flying stands, but they've got the little like tactical jump rocks, tactical jumpies that are very noticeable and very cool to see. Now, here's the Exarch. And all of these have wonderful composition, you know, just kind of bouncing off a little wraith stone of some kind, of different things. And then there's a regular one with the Las Blaster, I believe they call it. And then, like I said, I think these are about the same size as the metal ones. They're just a little bit more lithe, a little bit more, I don't know, sculpted better, I suppose. And definitely more dynamic. But maybe they are a smidge bigger, but the wings seem to be still about the same size, which is puzzling, I guess. I don't know. And then here's how they compare to a Primaris. So same size base, just probably a little bit bigger once they spread out and get their once they spread their wings, so to speak. LOL, see what I did there. And then Baharroth is also a giant. Like this guy, it's got all sorts of things going on. These backpacks, the wings go together very well. They lock in. Everything's pretty snug. You don't have to worry about anything popping off as long as you get it glued in there good in the right spots. This, oh, we haven't got to Asuremen yet. I was going to tell you about the cape, but that's the next guy. So I think this looks just incredible. And then again, compared to a Primaris, like what? LOL, what? I don't even know. Like, these are so sick. They definitely have a lot of room to kind of stand up with all the new designs that have been coming out. And then last but not least is Asurmen. Just sick, doing the Van Damme split, tactical rock, just like Drazar. There you can see all of it. It's got the Reaping Twins, I believe they're called. And then right here, I used a little bit of that glue to kind of seal it up. So this will not, I need to do a little trimming right there. But hopefully that gap is pretty much full, and once you get paint on it, it won't be noticeable that there's a huge gap because there's no fold and there's no underhang to hide that, which GW's gotten really good at doing, but it's also noticeable. And then the little ammo, whatever it is, the shuriken ammo locks in right there, so you don't have to worry about that. That all's good to go for these guys. So it fits in there pretty good. I was really, I like everything else besides that big split down the cape. I really like the design of. I think they did a good job on it, and it is very cool looking as well. So that is about it for this one. I hope you enjoyed our unboxing and build of all the new Eldar kits that, well, it took a while to get out, and they were a bit late getting to retailers this week. If there is one thing that Games Workshop does, that does good, is they make really great shit, and everybody wants it. But everything else is kind of a crapshoot after that, unfortunately. And that's the title of maybe my next video. But we don't have time to talk about any of that today. So that is it for this one. Like I was saying, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to be the very first to like and comment on all our future videos. Spiky bits.